Stand by for broadcast.
You're listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations.
Hello, I'm Squadron Leader Peter Lisney, and in this episode it's part 2 of our behind-the-scenes look at a new TV documentary about the Royal Air Force.
The people that we film are nervous, but it's kind of nerve-wracking for us as well. Like, you're going into a completely new environment and you've got to very quickly make friends with people.
It represents myself, the Typhoon display team, women in engineering really well. So yeah, we'll wait and see. But it's always a little bit cringy when it's yourself, isn't it?
So I categorically did not say on live TV, on the camera, that I am a legend. Just wanted to make that clear.
Also, in this episode, we'll reheat a few stories just in case you missed them, and we'll be finding out who is under the hat this week.
What's the best thing about your job?
I think deploying is good. It's really good fun. It's nice to get out the door and actually use our kit in a practical way.
Find out who is under the hat at the end of this episode. Now, in the second instalment of our 2-part feature about Channel 4's documentary on the RAF, we rejoin InsideAIR's Air Specialist 1 Emma Kirwan as she goes behind the scenes of Top Guns inside the RAF.
Hi, I'm AS1 Emma Kirwan, and I'm back bringing you even more insight into how Top Guns inside the RAF was captured and how personnel got involved. Here's a reminder of what the documentary series on Channel 4 is about.
There's no such thing as a simple mission.
Bedlam, attack. Copied.
Bedlam 1 and 2 attacking.
So I press the commit button. There is a delay until the point of impact. And that period of time can feel like an eternity.
Okay, let's get straight into it. Firstly, you're going to hear from a Typhoon pilot who got up to this during the series.
Altitude mode dropout.
Dan went off-piste using a vertical game plan, i.e. he went up. That's not something that a Typhoon would normally do, but that was Dan testing me.
Crossing left-right, no high information.
It is a game of cat and mouse.
The dogfight will last for 3 minutes, as each pilot tries to get behind their opponent and target missiles at their jet.
We've got to maintain eyes on the other aircraft.
I'm Flight Lieutenant Dan Watmo. I'm a Typhoon pilot. During the recording, I was on 3 Fighter Squadron, and now I'm on 29 Squadron. So we did a lot of filming, probably over 4 or 5 days worth, and there was a lot of things that weren't shown. So briefing, debriefing in the planning room, talking about various aspects of deployment, how managing family life, flying career, things like that. A lot of other people involved as well. There's only so much, obviously, you can put in within a 45-minute video that's covering others as well. So it ranged from home life to work life. What a standard day is for us on the front line, which is very difficult to get across on the cameras because it changes daily and anything could happen. So it kind of ranges from like a briefing room into the crew room, making coffees, talking about daily life really as a pilot.
What operations or exercises then were you involved in during filming?
We were on our pre-workup phase. So we have squadrons, various squadrons, whether from Lossy, Coningsby, Marham, deployed all over the world, doing various different exercises and operations. They go in basically readiness states. So whether they're going to go in operational deployments or exercises, we have what we call workups. So those workups will involve maybe months or weeks beforehand, training for the discipline that we're going to go and operate in, whether that's the air-to-surface role or air-to-air role. And then we'll spend those weeks up until that deployment training to get us ready and currency to go fly, whatever it is that they're asking us to do. So we were in our workup phase to go to Operation Shader out in the Middle East. So that for us involved a lot of pairs flying, so 2 aircraft, and then basically practicing the air-surface disciplines and the air-to-air roles that we may encounter out there. So it was all flown from 3 Squadron at Coningsby for us.
What kind of benefits, I guess, for the public are there to actually be witnessing what you were doing and the actual operation?
It's really difficult with operations currently in the Middle East. There's a big misconception about what RAF are doing, who we're supporting, and everything else. So it's important that we get across the right message. That we're not involved in a lot of them. We're not doing the things that people accuse us of online. So it's important to show them that we train really, really hard for the events that we may encounter, the hostilities that we're going to see. We're there to deter any aggression from any state that we may come across, but we're not the aggressors. We're training hard ultimately to fight easy and to stop things from happening where we're going. So as little kinetic operation as possible is what we want. We just want to deter, keep the peace, and maintain that throughout where we're flying. That's really important to us to get that across, and that it's not just going up in the sky, flying a jet and dropping bombs. That rarely happens. You're training hard, you're fighting hard at home, so when you do go away, you can gather intelligence, keep various sides of whatever war zone you're going to kind of at bay, to allow normal life in these countries to happen. So it's really important for us to say that we are really highly trained. We're training for these missions, and this is the type of things that are going to happen or that may happen. It's not easy, but I mean we're not politicians by any means, but we are there to try and deter enemy forces, not start wars, continue wars. So it's kind of really important for me that message gets across and that everyone's working really hard. And it's also important to get across that there's a lot more people involved in this rather than just 4 or 5 pilots on a squadron. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of people across the Air Force that are all aiding to this mission or whatever it is we're being asked to do. So it's really team effort.
Do you think that the message lands well in the series?
They've done really well with the series thus far, and hopefully it gives a bit of an insight into what it is that goes into our training and the efforts that people put in to do a good job. Obviously, there's a massive area which we can't cover. A lot of the documentation, the training, the rules of engagement, things like that, the tactics and everything else, we just can't cover on national TV because of the security level that it goes up to. So we are literally brushing over the bare basics of what we're training for, and sometimes that's frustrating when someone asks you a question, well, why'd you do that, or how does this happen? You just can't. But I think as much as we could, it's really complex. I think the producers and the MOD have done really well getting over what we can, hopefully.
So we've talked about you being on the front line, and you've mentioned yourself about comments and social media and that kind of misinformation that's just get spread about. Were you nervous at all going into this? A lot of people have eyes on the Middle East. I just wondered whether that was in your mind.
It is. Yeah, it does play on your mind a little bit to see what people think of you and everything else in the job that you're doing. Ultimately, I'm filling a role within the Air Force and representing. I believe we are doing a really good job out there. I've been out in the Middle East probably 7-8 times now, and we are always, regardless of what trade you look at in the military, we are always trying to make it better, support the people that live there. And I was there in 2014 when Operation Shader first started, and Iraq was on its knees. So I've seen it from both ends, and now I've seen it from flying over there and seeing normality. And I've had friends that I've gone through training with that are Iraqi. I've met all sorts of Middle Eastern people through training, and they do want us there. We are providing a service, and it's really nice to see the country's improved over the time and stuff. It's sad to see when you see people make comments about the British military and the stuff that we're doing over there, and they haven't got a clue. And it does frustrate you at times because you're like, well, I've been there, I've done that, I was there when that happened, and I was watching it. That's not true. Like, where have you got that from? And you've got to be really careful with the internet these days. You don't know what's true, what's not, and misinformation is a big thing, and it can sway people's opinions to be able to do something like this and hopefully get people on board and say, no, look, this is what's actually going on. This is how this happens or why it happens. Having been there is a good thing. So yeah, there's always the fact that you might be scrutinised, but I think that comes with the job ultimately.
Is there anything else that you'd like to get across?
On the episode 4, it did say me saying I was a legend. That was taken out of context because I was filming. I was asked what Bolly would think of me. So I said, I think I'm probably a legend, joking, thinking that they weren't filming. They were filming, cheeky. And that came and they put that across as I just came out and said, I'm a legend. Now I'm getting loads of stick from my work colleagues. So I categorically did not say on live TV, on the camera, that I am a legend. Just wanted to make that clear.
Up next, it's Lily Marchese, one of the directors. She's been telling me all about the process of capturing footage for the series.
I was part of the shooting team. I was brought in to sort of cover the stories at Coningsby, mainly at RAF Coningsby and RAF Waddington as well. So it was like covering some of our like home stories. I spent a lot of time with Mac and Cheese, who were lovely, and lovely Daryl in air traffic control. But also like there was a big push for, there was a team that was out on all the kind of international big missions. But there was a real kind of desire to show that there's a lot more to the RAF than just the pilots. So that was kind of a big part of my job.
Do you remember like the first day of like actually getting onto the bases and what that was like and like the process?
It was my first time on an RAF base, and obviously the first day, as you might imagine, was just like a lot of practical things, like getting my pass, being told where I could and couldn't walk, being introduced to the minders. We had like RAF media minders the whole time, and just getting a bit of a tour of the base, which was massive. It was like first time seeing Typhoons, and obviously there's BBMF as well, their Battle for Britain Memorial Flight. So all the old aircraft. And yeah, it was kind of just, there was already a team there when I got there. I think they'd already been on site for maybe like a month or something. So it was kind of just getting my head around all the various squadrons, And yeah, and that was the other thing as well, getting my head around all the titles and the names for things. I was kind of like thrown in immediately to film with Daryl doing a airfield check. Yeah, it's always tough in these kind of jobs because you don't really get a practice going. If you've never filmed with military, or you've never filmed with whoever it might be that you're filming with, and they're doing a job and you're just there to film them do that thing that they do all the time, you've kind of just got to go with it and hope that it works. I think it's always hard, like with anything, when you're filming, we spent, I think, maybe close to 6 months filming, and you film so much. And, even when you film in a scene, it feels like you're filming like hours and reams of stuff. So it's always it can sometimes be a bit hard and disheartening when it's all boiled down into 45 minutes or whatever it is, because I don't have anything to do with how it gets edited, and or it's rare that I do. It normally gets passed on and you just walk away at the end of your contract and wait to watch it on TV like everyone else. So yeah, sometimes you're a bit like, oh, what happened to that bit and what happened to this bit, or you worry that 45 minutes when you're covering 4 or 5 stories isn't enough to like really get across somebody's character, someone's, what they're like as a person. But I think so far, the episodes that I've watched, I feel like they've been really good, and they've had a really good reception, which is the main thing. No matter how many times you go on a shoot, like the people that we film are nervous, but it's kind of nerve-wracking for us as well. Like you're going into a completely new environment and you've got to like very quickly make friends with people. No, it was really good. And like, I think Coningsby and Waddington and all the people that I met were really super kind of like helpful and friendly.
Now let's hear from Sergeant Polly McKinley, Typhoon Display Team Engineering Manager based at RAF Coningsby.
They found out that we were moving our new painted aircraft, Moggy, in the middle of the night. So the reason why we do that is because we don't want anyone to see the aircraft before we do our big reveal, because for us, the social media, the media side of that is quite a big part of the paint scheme to get people intrigued. And so the paint scheme that we had, Moggy, was a camouflage on top, plain underneath, to represent the aircraft from D-Day. They had the invasion stripes on the top and underneath, so that our friends could know which aircraft were friends and not foe. It had the yellow leading edge on the slats on the Typhoon, again, was a marker so that our friends that we were flying with on D-Day would recognise that it was a friendly aircraft, not an enemy, so they wouldn't shoot it down. And then the roundel on the side also had the yellow outer edge, so again that you could see that it was one of the D-Day aircraft, so that they wouldn't get shot down, because obviously there were so many aircraft up. Going back and forth, it was quite hard to, especially with like different allies, which aircrafts belonged to who. So it was just good indicators so that everyone could see which side the aircraft belonged to. So myself, my team, and some members from the squadron came in at midnight, and we called it midnight moggy, to move the aircraft from the paint shop over to one of the hardened air shelters over the other side of Coningsby. We like turned off all the lights. It was like stealth mode to try and get across so that no one got like sneaky pictures of it, because obviously around RAF Coningsby there's a lot of people that come daily to watch the aircraft, either Typhoon or from the Battle of Britain Memorial flight. So they found out that we were doing that, and because obviously it was all a bit sneaky and all a little bit different, they asked if they could film it.
When they actually approached you, did you have any concerns about them filming?
My main concern was, one, this is a QRA station, so obviously the aircraft can be launched at any moment. So to get from where I was to where I was going, I had to go across the main runway. So I said, like, you can film, but I am supervising an aircraft tow. So there'll be bits where you just need to stand back and let me do what I'm doing, because obviously I am supervising this task. And then also where it's like safety critical of going across a runway, what is active, not active for all the other planes because it was in the middle of the night, but QRA could launch. So there was points where I said where they could film and where they couldn't film, and I explained to them that if there was something happening where I'd have to tell them to move away, they'd have to listen to me because I was in charge of moving that aircraft.
And how did all of those conversations go?
Yeah, they were really happy. I think they were just happy that they were getting to film it, and they were very accommodating of basically me carrying out my primary role as an avionic sergeant. One of the tasks would be moving an aircraft.
How did you feel on a personal level, actually, being filmed and showing the public more about your role?
On that one especially, I was quite excited because it was something different to me. At that point, I've been in the Air Force nearly 15 years, and to be part of the paint scheme, the reveal, moving it was quite an exciting thing to be moving an aircraft in the middle of the night. Again, it's something I'd never really done, where you're getting all the lights turned off, and they were just asking me some questions and doing some filming over my shoulder of, just me carrying out the task that I'd carried out 1,000 times before. But it was just a little bit different because obviously you just didn't want anyone to get pictures of it. And it's just a little bit more exciting than a normal aircraft tow.
It's a very poignant thing to be taking part in anyway. And I know that a lot of this will be documented with pictures and things, but I guess having that record, marks in this documentary, it might feel a proud moment for you.
Yes, and it's not just for me, it's like for my friends, family. I've got like young nieces and nephews, so like for them it's something cool, isn't it? Like it's not every day someone that's been on the TV, whether or not it's like interesting to them with the aircraft side of things, but it just spreads awareness.
I know that you were just saying that you haven't actually watched yourself yet. How are you feeling about watching yourself on the telly?
I'm nervous. I think it's more your voice, how you hear your voice, and then how your voice sounds when you hear it back off like the radio or the TV or something. I think is worse than actually for me than seeing myself. But hopefully everyone says they've done a really good job with it, and it represents myself, the Typhoon display team, women in engineering, really well. So we'll wait and see. But it's always a little bit cringy when it's yourself, isn't it?
I think it takes a little bit of getting used to. Just kind of going back to the media side of things then, and actually putting yourself out there, like you say, hearing your voice and watching yourself on the TV. I just wondered how well the RAF has done in getting you ready for this kind of interview and being filmed in this way. How have you felt about that?
So through my whole career, because I'm an avionics technician by trade, and there's not many females within that role, there's been quite a few instances where once I had loads of photos taken for RAF recruitment, and my face was on the side of like a cab in London. I was on Sky One for the F1 to do with the display team as well. Because I've done it for a long period of time, little bits here and there, I'm now kind of at the point where it doesn't bother me as much. And in the role that I'm in, my face is the face of the public of the Typhoon display team. Like, so you kind of just get used to it. So I kind of feel like it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. And I think all of these little bits that I've done to promote my trade and the RAF has kind of led to this not being as bad as what if I'd have done nothing before and then I'd just done this. I think it would be a lot more daunting than what this is feeling at the moment.
With your kind of experience then, do you have any advice for any other personnel who might be listening to this podcast? Because some of the trades are just so nervous to talk to the media, and you do hear horror stories and things.
I would say do it. I think sometimes when you're younger, you're a bit more reluctant to do stuff. But then now when I look back and I'll find a picture of something that I done when I was an SAC tech, and I'm like, oh, actually, I'm quite glad that I done that, because there's photos of that part of my life that I wouldn't have necessarily taken or documented myself. People in the military would make jokes anyway, because it's the way that we are. And then tomorrow something else has happened, so it's completely forgotten about. But like for me, it's a good way to look back at different stages of your life of what you've been part of and what you've been doing. And you always have a media minder with you, so no one's ever going to allow you to say something or for something to be produced that's going to put you or the RAF in a bad light, because obviously it wouldn't be beneficial.
And finally, I asked Director Lily her thoughts on the military and her experience working on this project.
For me personally, I sort of felt like I got a newfound appreciation for the military. Like I said, I'd sort of randomly done a couple of days with the Navy before, and then had this big stint with the RAF. You know, maybe if I'm completely honest, there's always been a part of me that's never really understood what the military does. I guess, my best friend was captain in the army, and it was like this really kind of unknown job that she did, and it was all kind of like cloak and daggers and quite a hard concept for me to understand what the military does. But, getting an inside insight and seeing all the kind of behind the scenes stuff, a lot of it, which, you don't hear about in the news, and, but just seeing this big kind of organization of people just keeping things ticking over in the background and, daily doing quite dangerous life-risking things, just gave me some newfound appreciation of the importance of it, the importance of our military. But also just they're just really normal people, like really, really normal people, quite young, very often very, very young. Everyone that I met just had a really good head on the shoulders and just really lovely, humble, kind of caring people. It was a pleasure to film with them, really. There was a lot of like practical and logistical complications that, were frustrating at times, but can also understand why. A lot of the time I work on observational access documentaries. So whether it's the police or a hospital or a school, or, where you get access to a big organisation. Part of the access is that you do sort of have, I don't want to say free rein, but it's kind of agreed that you're there to cover whatever stories happen, and that there's a trust between the production and whoever the organisation is that let us film everything, and then afterwards we sort of come together and often they get to sort of watch it and things like that, especially when it's stuff like the police and military. I think what was tricky on site was that everything that we filmed kind of had to be checked. We couldn't just go off and arrange things to film, so planning our days could be a bit clunky and didn't always feel very productive. But we had good minders, and I wouldn't have wanted their job either, because they were trying to do their own work and look after, kind of babysit this camera crew. That was a new thing for me, and it was quite tricky to sort of negotiate. But, we got there, and actually, generally speaking, everybody on the ground was like super helpful and super like wanting to let us in. But yeah, there was a lot of like higher ups had to sort of give the okay and the green light to stuff on a daily basis. So, but yeah, by the end of it, I feel like we sort of got into a really good routine, and things started to just become a little bit more relaxed. And I think, I get it. It takes a lot of time to like trust. And I think especially organisations, people like the military have been burnt by media before, whether it's news or TV. I haven't been in the kind of direct line of comms, but everything that I've heard from the production team and even just from people that I've now stayed friends with on Facebook in the RAF all sounds like everyone's kind of it's been a bit of a sigh of relief, I think. And everyone's like, oh, actually, all that kind of blood, sweat, and tears has paid off, and we were never making a contentious program. Like, it was always going to be positive, and this kind of like tribute and appreciation of the services. But it can feel a bit scary, and it feels a little bit like, especially when, just for the general public, I mean, there is a huge appreciation and love for the military services, but there's also, it can be a bit contentious for some people. So I think the fear of kind of saying the right thing or showing the right thing is understandable, I guess. It was all around a really good, fun experience. I mean, it was eye-opening for me. It was a kind of like new experience for me. I think that's what I love about my job. You get to have these insights into these crazy worlds that you just wouldn't otherwise get a chance to see. So it was just really nice to be let in and to be trusted with the stories. And I just really hope that, everyone that we filmed did enjoy it. And I hope that it's been positive all around. And I think we've made a special series together. So fingers crossed for series 3.
Could there be another series on the cards? Honestly, I have no idea. But it seems like the filmmakers are keen. I guess we will all have to keep an eye out for any announcement on that. Thanks for listening.
This is Reheat for InsideAIR, where we take a look at some of the RAF stories you may have missed. I'm AS1 Chris Keane. RAF Typhoons, currently based in the Middle East, have conducted air-to-air refuelling with the German Air Force A400M for the first time. The operations were carried out both during the night and the day to qualify the RAF pilots in refuelling from a different aircraft type and therefore increase their overall capability. Anti-submarine warfare experts from Lossiemouth are heading to Italy next month to take part in a major NATO exercise. Dynamic Manta is an annual event, first run in 2013, and it sees submarines take it in turns hunting and being hunted. A 70-strong P-8A Poseidon crew will operate out of Sigonella Naval Air Station in Italy. The Royal Air Force has trialled the use of hydro-treated vegetable oil to support current capabilities. The trial, which was called Project Esther, took place at RAF Wittering and saw 5 vehicles from 2 Mechanical Transport Squadron use the fuel for a 5-month period, whilst 3 Mobile Catering Squadron used it with the Operational Field Catering System. A US Marine Corps F-35B has conducted the first test flights of a Meteor missile. The inert missile is used to gather environmental data as part of the campaign to integrate UK weapons onto F-35. Meteor is the UK's primary air-to-air missile and is already being carried on operations by Typhoon. Joining the RAF is going to become quicker and easier under a new recruitment service that cuts red tape. Candidates will complete 1 application and 1 medical via a single digital system that will see applications reviewed, offers made and training begin at a faster pace. Computer whizzes will also get a new direct entry system with reduced basic training, a starting salary of £40,000 and specialist training. And finally, an RAF photographer is heading for fame with the release of his debut single. AS1 Martin Goffin, known in the music world as Only Martin, has released a single called Bam, which is inspired by his memories of getting up early for a job he hated. And that was Reheat for InsideAIR.
I'm AS1 Ben Russell, and this is Under the Hat, where we get to know an aviator in less than a minute. Name you're known by.
I'm AS1 Tech Jacqueline.
What's your profession?
I'm an IT tech, cyberspace communication specialist based at RAF Leeming.
What's the best thing about your job?
I think deploying, it's good. It's really good fun. It's nice to get out the door and actually use our kit in a practical way.
Hardest part of your job?
Probably the servicing my kit can get quite mundane, and it's not actually a hard part of our job, but it becomes hard.
Best location you've served?
I really enjoyed Rzeszów in Poland, and that was really good fun. I also quite liked RAF Lossiemouth. Just was there for a couple of weeks for a mountain rescue course, and it was just quite a nice change of pace.
What bit of luxury kit do you never deploy without?
Probably a universal charger, I think. Just so useful.
And what's your proudest moment in the RAF?
It was graduating from Cosford for my trade training and getting an overall score of 93% and top marks in the class.
Thank you, AS1 Tech Jacqueline, for being the latest aviator to take part in Under the Hat.
That's all for this episode of Inside Air. Please give us a review and subscribe on your favourite podcast app, and join us again soon.
You've been listening to Inside Air, a behind-the-wire view of the Royal Air Force, its people, technology and operations. If you're serving in the RAF and have a story for us, please speak to your unit media and communications officer. Inside Air is written and produced for the Royal Air Force by RAF Media Reserves.